Please continue then with the question.
Thank you.
With the
okay,
topics.
thank you. Oh, yes.
The
yes,
next one, I think, death and impermanence.
All right. So death and impermanence is also a topic. Actually, it's the second profound thought. It is to be found if you want to study along in page 29. Yes, impermanence and death in the Four Profound Thoughts book, page 29. Then I will quote here Shakyamuni Buddha talking about several passages on the subject of impermanence. Impermanence is the second profound thought. So the first one was the preciousness of human birth, and the second one is impermanence and death. Yes. This in the Lalita Vishtara Sutra, Shakyamuni Buddha says, this existence of ours. Sorry, give me a second. Okay. Then Shakyamuni Buddha says, this existence of ours is as transient as autumn clouds. To watch the birth and death of beings is like looking at the movement of a dance. A lifetime is like a flash of lightning in the sky, rushing by like a torrent down a steep mountain. Yes. So Shakyamuni Buddha here says that so it's like a flash of lightning in the sky. It means that our life is very impermanent. So this human birth that is so difficult to obtain can be lost anytime, everywhere. So we are close to death all the time. Yes. So remember that. I mean, I still remember many friends and relatives who died, sudden deaths. I mean, in an accident, or maybe a sudden illness, you see, and this has indeed, allowed me to reflect on the impermanence of life. Yes, yes. Actually, I remember that the reason why I became a religious seeker was because when I was in high school, a friend of mine who was only 16 years old at a time. Yes, he died in a sudden crash car accident. He was only 16 years old. Yes, and this affected our whole high school. Was in shock. I mean, this guy was very lively. Was like very easygoing. He was considered to be a good guy by many people, and he died a tragic death at 16 years old. And I also had another cousin of mine that died several years ago, again in a car crash, and she was only 17. Yes, so that is indeed very tragic, and this allows us to see, yes, that this precious human life that we have can be lost anytime. So we don't have, we shouldn't have the luxury just to waste a single moment. We should do everything we can as Buddhists to study a path that allows us to escape samsara. Yes, because we don't have time. As Jodo Sensei says constantly in his books, we don't have time for our so-called spiritual evolution. Yes, all that we have is this moment, and we are evil beings full of evil karma. Yes, so we should take these words into consideration and entrust ourselves to Amida Buddha while we have time. Then Shakyamuni Buddha also says in the Lalita, sorry, this one is from in the Samyutta Nikaya. Yes. Shakyamuni Buddha says, just as mountains of solid rock, massive, reaching to the sky, might draw together from all sides, crushing all in the four quarters, so aging and death come rolling over like living beings. So here Shakyamuni Buddha is comparing impermanence and death to giant mountains coming from all sides like monsters, you see. So Shakyamuni Buddha had a very a vivid way, by analogies to explain this. And then Shakyamuni Buddha continues, warriors, Brahmins, traders, hunters, outcasts, and scavengers, they spare none along the way, yes, but come crushing everything, the mountains of impermanence and death. There is no hope there for victory against aging and death, not even by elephants, troops, chariots, and infantry. one cannot defeat them by subterfuge or buy them off by means of wealth. Therefore, a person of wisdom here, out of regard for his own good, steadfast, should settle faith in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. It is very interesting that Shakyamuni Buddha is mentioning here faith, you see, because having faith in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, it's the first step towards practicing any Buddhist path. You should have faith in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Yes. And for us, Jodo Shinshu Buddhists, we should develop faith in Amida Buddha. So settle faith. Guarantee that we won't be reborn in samsara ever again, and we will become Buddhas in Amida Buddha's Pure Land and escape the misery that Shakyamuni Buddha here describes masterfully, I would say. These mountains coming from all sides, crushing everything down, gods, humans, kings and beggars, everyone, animals, all the 6 realms are crushed in the jaws of birth and death, you see. So we should, of course, take the Dharma very seriously. Remember, we are not playing games here. Yes, this is, of course, I know this is for you as well. Yes, but for me, this is not a hobby. This is not something that I do for fun. I'm actually, studying the Buddha Dharma to escape samsara. Yes, because I take the suffering that I see around me very seriously. Yes, we all do. That's why we are here, no? Yes. So, and Nagarjuna Buddha Bodhisattva says in letter to a friend, yes, he says, life flickers in the flurries of 1,000 eels, more fragile than a bubble in a stream. In sleep, each breath departs and is again drawn in. How wondrous that we wake up living still. So imagine this, no? Actually, the only thing that separates us from death is only a breath away. We inspire and expire, but suddenly the breath that comes in may never get out, or the other way around. So we can lose our precious human life anytime. And actually, I have a relative of mine, you see, that he lost his wife. His wife she died while she was sleeping, and she was only like 40 years old. She was still very young. And suddenly, this friend of mine, he woke up and her wife had an aneurysm. So she died while she was sleeping. Yes. So this is not an analogy. This is not something poetic. This is something that actually happens in the real world. And we see this all the time. Yes. We don't know if we will, if we will eat breakfast tomorrow. We simply don't know. You see. So we should live every day and make it count. Listen to the Buddha Dharma. Open the sutras, study the sutras, Seinen Butsu. You see, it's good for us to do this. And of course, for us, the most important thing is to entrust ourselves to Amida Buddha. You see? So yeah, I think there are many more things to say here. Maybe I will just end this question by another quote by Shakyamuni Buddha. Actually, maybe I will quote some of our Jodo Shinshu teachers. For example, this is from Renyo Shonin. Yes. So Renyo Shonin says, if you wish to attain faith and entrust yourselves to Amida, first realize, says Renyo, that human life endures only as long as a dream or an illusion, and that the afterlife in the Pure Land is indeed the blissful result in eternity, and that human life means the enjoyment of only 50 or 100 years, and that the afterlife is the matter of greatest importance. You see? And also Renyo said, yes, and I will try to paraphrase him, he said that even if you don't know how to read, yes, even if you are ignorant of letters and numbers, if you entrust yourself to Amida and you take into consideration the afterlife, then you are wise. But even if you know all the 84,000 sutras, and you don't care about the afterlife, you don't care about what will happen to you, then you are ignorant, you see? So wisdom and ignorance is not a matter of how many words you know. It's a matter of taking into consideration the greatest matter of all, that Reni constantly says in his letters, in the Ofumi. He always says, the most important matter is to settle Shinjin and to take care of your afterlife. Take care of your afterlife. Why? It's because people think that death is like a theoretical or philosophical matter. Yes. And I can tell you this because I study philosophy in the university, and I have many friends of mine who are very, very intelligent. They are actually quite outstanding. They know many languages. They know Greek, Latin, whatever, but they don't care about the afterlife. They say, oh, yeah, I mean, death, who cares? You see? But so that means, according to the Buddha Dharma, that knowing a lot of books is not wisdom. Yes. What wisdom, yes, and true intelligence is to take care of the matter of greatest importance, which is the afterlife. You know, what will happen to you if you die right now? What will happen to you? You see? So Jodo Shinshu, yes, is quite wise in this regard, because we start from the we don't start. I mean, the beginning of our path is death. Yes, and this is very important. The beginning of our path is to take into consideration this matter of what will happen to us if we lose our body right now, you know. And this is something that rarely crosses the mind, very rarely crosses the mind of other Buddhists. Yes, they always tell that you Jodo Shinshu Buddhists are always talking about death. Yes, but the thing is that the Buddha talked about death all the time. What are you talking about? You see? So it's not like we are inventing this, you know. Shakyamuni Buddha himself constantly taught about death. You know?
He said that also that death is the best friend on the path.
Yes, sir. Yes, Sensei. Yes, indeed. Shakyamuni Buddha says that like the footprints of all animals, like the elephant is the footprint that is the greatest of all animals. In that case, the greatest reflection for a Buddhist is death. No, so the Buddhists who are not considering death, they are not true Buddhists, I would say, because they have not read the sutras. You see, doesn't matter if you practice Zen. I mean, it's not a matter only for Jodo Shinshu; it's for all Buddhists. Yes, we should always take the death into consideration. If you are practicing a self-power path and you are serious about it, and you read about death, and you will go to a cave and you will meditate your whole life. That's what you should do. You see, in our case, we don't have the power to do these complex practices, so we entrust to Amida Buddha. This is our method, our urgency. Okay. So yes, I mean, I think that I have said enough about this. What do you want to say, dear friends?
Imagine that there are some people nowadays who even deny rebirth, deny the fact that so-called secular Buddhists, they are so-called secular Buddhists or progressive Buddhists and bullshit Buddhists, I can say, they deny life after death, they deny rebirth. And because they do this, they can't meditate on death and the afterlife. So they can't have a real aspiration for salvation, you know. Yes. And about impermanence, I'm not sure if you talked about this because internet here is very slow. When we talk about impermanence in Jodo Shinshu and especially at Amidaji, we talk in two terms, like impermanence of your body and of your life that can end anytime, and also impermanence of your so-called spiritual realizations. That's also very important. Everything that we think we achieve, we can lose. And a spiritual evolution is not a straight road to nirvana. You can always go down when you go up. When you think you go up, you will certainly always go down. So I met some practitioners from other schools who said something like, you know, I'm sure, even recently, like 2 weeks ago, I met somebody from Vajrayana who said that he will continue his practice in another life if he doesn't achieve enlightenment in this life. I asked him, how can you be so sure about that? Because you can always lose. You never know what your next life will look like. And you can't be certain that you will continue to evolve spiritually. Even in a single day, we can start a day like saints, having good thoughts because it's morning and the sun is out there in the sky. And until evening, we can fight with many people we can go from joy to sadness and to angriness and so on. So you can always lose everything you gain. Even one moment of anger can make you lose everything that you achieved until then in spiritual life. And the Buddhist texts are filled with such examples of great masters who practiced solitary meditation for many years, achieved even great powers, and then that master became angry on a person, and he lost everything he achieved. Or there was the case of another monk who could fly in the air because of his spiritual achievements, and then he saw a beautiful lady, he became attached to her, and he fell out of the sky just because of that single sort of attachment. So impermanence should be also understood as impermanence of our so-called spiritual realizations. Yes, thank you, Kosho, for your presentation.
No, yes, indeed. Yes, I forgot about this because this is quite important, especially in Jodo Shinshu, the impermanence of the things we think we know, no, and the things we think we can achieve, especially in the self-power path. It happened to me, certainly. I used to practice Theravada and Vajrayana, and actually, it is only when I was actually, sincere with myself that I realized that indeed I couldn't do anything, that I hadn't achieved anything, So I asked myself, do I keep the precepts? No. Am I a good meditator? No, I am not. So what will happen to me when I die? Certainly, if I have an ordinary mind, I will have an ordinary rebirth. You see?
Yes.
So it's like it's like I realized that I was a spiritual loser when it comes to Buddhism. You see? Because you cannot compare it to your neighbor. You have to compare yourself to the Buddhist masters of the past. Those are the benchmarks. Those are the standard, the golden standard. The great practitioners, Milarepa, Tsongkhapa, Empty Cloud, Master Su Yun. Are you like them? Yes. Or
maybe also have to compare yourself with the Buddha himself.
And to the Buddha himself, yes.
Yes. Shinran Shonin said, do those people who speak about attaining enlightenment in this life, can they really help all beings like Shakyamuni? Can they manifest various bodies of accommodations like Shakyamuni? Can they be in the same time in myriads of places in the universe like Shakyamuni, helping all beings? If you can't do that, then what the fuck are you talking about? When you refer to spiritual evolution.
Yes, in the Tanisho, actually, I think in chapter 15, then the Shinran shown in the Tanisho. Maybe I would like to share with you this passage. This is a very important passage. You see, let me look for it. Maybe. I would like to share this with you. Actually, I have all of the books open here, so I might as well use them. Yes, let me see. This is here. Oh yes, here is in page. If you are studying along with me, go to page 61 from the commentary of Yosho Sensei, so from the Tanisho. Yes, if you go there. It is here. And then the Tanisho says, yes, chapter 15, the attainment of Buddhahood with this very body is the essence of the Shingon esoteric teaching. It is the realization achieved through the three kinds of mystic acts. You see, it says here, the purification of the six sense organs is the one vehicle teaching of the Lotus Sutra. It is the virtue acquired through the four practices of repose or meditation. These are the practices to be followed by those of superior capacity. They lead to the enlightenment realized through fulfilling contemplative practice. You see? So remember, as the Tanisho says, as Shinran says, this is to be followed by people of high capacities. You see? I think that people in the Vajrayana, they should be reminded of this more often, because many people practice Vajrayana, and they actually, if you read the Vajrayana, in order to practice that, you have to have extreme good capacities, you see? And then Shinran Shonin asks, here in the Tanishu, do those who speak of realizing enlightenment while in this bodily existence manifest various accommodated bodies, nirmanakayas, possess the Buddha's 32 features and 80 marks of excellence, and preach the Dharma to benefit beings like Shakyamuni Buddha? Is this because this is what is meant by realizing enlightenment in this life? You see? So we shouldn't take the word enlightenment lightly. Enlightenment means power. It means all of the great capacities of a Tathagata that are listed in the hundreds. Yes, perfection in meditation, perfection of the 6 paramitas, perfect compassion, perfect wisdom, the 3 Buddha bodies, being able to use with perfect compassion and wisdom the Dharmakaya, the Sambhogakaya, and the Nirmanakaya. Are you able to do that? If not, then shut up. You see, then what you think you have is not enlightenment. Maybe you are a little bit calmer, but that doesn't mean that you are enlightened. You see?
Yes.
It's very important. It's very important that what Yosho Sensei says. And actually, Shinran Shonin uses very strong words here. It says it is ridiculous even to consider this for us. I mean, if you consider this very thoroughly, yeah, even being reborn in the higher realms is impossible for us. Yes, because we have committed too much evil karma. We will go straight to the lower realms if we didn't have the power of Amida Buddha to rely on. So we should be very sincere with us. What is the state of our mind? Yes, if we cannot be even born in the higher realms, not even mention, then don't even mention Buddhahood, because that would be out of the question. You see?
Yes, and there are many wise guys these days who have the feeling that they have time. You know, they behave like having time. I meet a lot of people who are still searching. They search. They were still searching 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and they are still searching now. They were lucky enough to live long, but unfortunately, they still didn't find anything, you know. And this idea with having time is a great illusion. You actually don't have. You have only 1 second or 2 seconds, or and you can die anytime. And in that time, when you die, as Kosho said, you have to ask yourself, in what state of mind will death find you? You know, for me also, I converted to Jodo Shinshu when the distance between my death, between me and my death, was reduced to 0. When one of my friends died at 18 years old, in your case it was 16, my case was 18 years old. He was 18 years old and he drowned in the sea suddenly. Then his father died. Then my grandmother died. And all this time I was playing smart. I saw that, I meditate, I do this and that. But in that moment, when I really met death and impermanence, when I became aware of death and impermanence, then I felt that I don't have time, and I felt very fragile, extremely fragile. Like my body is fragile, my so-called practice was fragile, and I really felt I don't have time. And I want a path that if I follow it, I know for sure that if I die now, then I attain enlightenment, And I always advise people to be very hurried, to not have patience on the Buddhist path. It's a sign of wisdom to not have patience and to want to attain enlightenment quickly, And
yes.
Actually, there is no path like the primal vow of Amida Buddha that can take you to the Pure Land, to enlightenment quickly. Vajrayana also says that they can offer a quick escape. But actually, Vajrayana is very difficult, extremely difficult and dangerous. Yes, you can take a ship, a rocket to the moon and reach the moon very quickly. But that rocket can also burst into flame. It can, a malfunction might happen. So actually, the safest and quickest path to enlightenment is the primal vow of Amida Buddha. There is no other path like that.
Yes, yes,
Please.
because Amida Buddha is the owner of the ship and is the captain.
Yes.
So you only put yourself there, and then
he
will
provides
take
everything. Yes.
He gives you everything. Yes.
You just have to accept to be safe. That's all.
Yes, it's beautiful.
From
Yes.
your personality can hinder salvation offered by Amida, or can contribute to the salvation offered by Amida. So everything is done by Amida. You just need to accept his helping hand. That's all. It's the quickest and safest, you know.
Yes, and actually, if you look around in Chinese Buddhism, and also I know the case of a very famous Dzogchen master who his disciples were very surprised because he told them, you should be born in the Pure Land. They don't care about Dzogchen. Just go to the Pure Land because everything is fucked right now. and this is very wise. And I think that many of the wise Buddhists, almost all of them, they want to be born in the Pure Land. If you ask a Vajrayana, a serious Vajrayana practitioner, they say, no, go to the Pure Land, you know. And this is good. Of course, they go through the 19th and the 20th vow, which is okay. I mean, their own karma. But if we have access to the 18th vow, we are very fortunate indeed, and we should ourselves and don't play smart, as Joshu Sensei says. Okay? Do you guys add anything, dear friends, before I continue?
Yeah, I thought I'd share my great mystical wisdom and how profound my merits are with you guys. I remember once I worked in Memorial City Mall, and I would have only a 30-minute lunch break, and I would go and do silent meditation in order to get away from the music that was blaring in the mall. I would go and sit out by the hedges out in the parking lot or under the stairwell. And one day I was sitting under the stairwell where you know the plants were and everything. And I was enjoying silent meditation, and this asshole teenage kid decided it would be cute to spit off the balcony, and the spit landed a couple of inches away from me. I went straight from that meditative state into spending the rest of the day cursing and wanting to kill that kid. So this is why I'm a Jodo Shinshu Buddhist. You know, that's my merits. That's at their best, really.
That's the most convincing words about Jodo for Jodo Shinshu. Yes. Yeah.
I want to add something. It's just like you said, Josho. I've also experienced many deaths around me. Back when I was in high school, we also had like a accident with these kids, and I remember I walked into my classroom, and the whole vibe there was so sad, and the children there were like 16, and some of them were 17, and they were like speeding on the highway. That's what killed them. I've also experienced one of my mother's friends died. And I also got to see what it was like to see a dead person, and I did. I lost my pet bird of 3 years. He died in my hand. I've experienced many deaths around me. And for me, it's just like Josho said, there is no time on the spiritual path. There's no time. And trust to Amida, well, you still have time before it's too late. That's why for me, death was one of the main factors of why I led me to Amida Buddha, because without him, I would be screwed and destined for the hell realms. Namo Amida Bu.
Amida Bu.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hosan. Thank you, Yoshin, and thank you, Yosho Sensei, for your comments. Indeed, we are blessed to have Amida Buddha to rely on, because it's obviously our ego shouldn't be relied upon. I mean, we shouldn't take it seriously. We cannot rely on our own capacity, no? Okay.
Yes, it's very important to mention here that when we refer in Jodo Shinshu to other power, we refer to other power in spiritual matters. in the matters of attaining Buddhahood. We do not, when we say that we shouldn't use self-power, we refer in matters of, in spiritual matters, in the matters of attaining Buddhahood. In those matters, we say we are incapable, you know, but this is not an encouragement for people to be lazy in their daily life.
No,
I mean,
yes, of course.
I mean, we do not discourage people from trying to be a good teacher, a good businessman, a good father, mother, and so on. But being a good father, for example, if you can be a good father, doesn't mean that you can also be a Buddha, you know, or being a good mechanic doesn't mean you can be a Buddha, you know. Attaining Buddhahood is not the same with being skillful in I don't know, bodybuilding, business, and so on, or being very good at ladies, how Joshin is. So, you know, Joshin can be very good with the ladies, but this doesn't make him a Buddha. Yes.
Yes.
So only in these matters of attaining Buddhahood, we say we are incapable. Yes.
Yes, it's not like we are, of course, this is a subtle distinction that we have to make clear. It's not like we are telling people that they are worthless, you know, in their daily lives.
Sorry, even if you are a loser in your daily life, you are still saved, of course.
Of course,
so
but that doesn't mean that, yes, I mean, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't, I don't know, strive to become a lawyer or
yes,
you know, a musician or whatever that your ambition, mundane ambition is, of course. Try to be a happy human being. That doesn't mean that that's okay. But we are talking about transcendental matters here, talking about overcoming death. I mean, overcoming samsara is not the same as being a good professional. It doesn't have. I mean, you can be the owner of the greatest bank here or the greatest CEO and still be a samsaric being, of course. Yeah. That doesn't have to do.
Yes. You are still nothing. Yes, you cannot compare yourself with a Buddha.
With a Buddha,
no matter what you do, no matter how successful you are. Yes.